Hi, this is Dr. Rosalind DeChavo, and I'm here to talk about what I call fear of porn and fear for porn. So I'm talking about this because in the last couple of years there's been a tremendous amount of controversy about pornography and a lot of discussion about porn addicts and sex addiction and whether or not those things should be terms, whether or not they're real. And some people say, how can you possibly ask if they're real? Look at all of this. And other people say there's no clinical criteria for it and all of this controversy. And what happens is that people on both sides seem to be very confused about how the other side, if you will, could possibly believe the way that they do. And I want to kind of give a little bit of information about each side as I see it. So the first side is what I call the fear of porn side, and these folks generally fall into a few categories. The first set of folks are therapists who are seeing people come in and doctors who are seeing people come in for a lot of symptoms that have to do with sexual performance and sexual functioning, I should say, and they're basically saying, look, I really think this has to do with the porn. So these are self-identified people who are coming and saying, you know, porn is actually making me unable to be with my partner. I still find my partner desirable on some level, but my body doesn't respond to her or him anymore. I'm just not interested. And in severe cases, what happens is folks are not just, it's not just about their sexual functioning. A lot of these people are coming in with tremendous depression, tremendously low energy levels. You know, they're not leaving the house. There's agoraphobia involved. And so it really gets very serious. And it's not something that we've really seen before, you know, at this way, and certainly not at this scale with this many people involved. So that's one set of people that are concerned. The other set are people who self-identify as porn addicts or having a problem with pornography. And these are guys, you know, often men who are very, very passionate about this issue. They essentially figure it out on their own. And if you don't believe this, you can really go to one of 100 different sites online and just read threads of conversations between these men who are essentially saying, you know, this happened to me. I started to watch more and more and more porn and harder and harder and harder core porn, and now nothing turns me on. My wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, who I normally find very desirable, I'm just don't interested in looking at them anymore. You know, I aesthetically still find them, you know, attractive, but nothing is working. I can't get an erection. I can't have an orgasm. Nothing is working, and so there's this set of people. The other set of people are feminists and people who are pro-women in one way or another, pro-feminists and feminists who essentially are very concerned about objectification by porn. There are people who are very concerned about people being trafficked in order to create porn, which is a very real concern. And there are people who simply are worried about the depersonalization that these images can bring, meaning that the sex gets sort of separated from the person, so that the sexual desire is no longer for a person. Now it's for images online, and part of the worry about that is, wow, you know, now women are going to have to live up to these extreme standards, not only how they look, which has always been an issue, but also what they're willing to do in bed. And you even hear sex workers talking about this. So if you're in the field that I'm in and you actually get to talk to sex workers, you know, there are many of them who will say, you know, vanilla, regular sex is just not enough for these guys anymore. They want all of these things that I've never had to do. And a lot of it is coming from what they're seeing online. So there are a lot of people who are legitimately concerned about a subset of people who have trouble with pornography. And when we talk about this, we're not talking about Playboy or, you know, still porn images that are just sort of, you know, still. And we're not even talking about a movie that you could pop into a VCR in the old days or into the DVD player and just watch it through. No, because this is a different medium, and I think we really, really, really need to acknowledge that as a field and as researchers. We need to look into, there's a difference between a magazine and a still image and a movie And these short, brief little clips that are often of very, very intense behavior that would normally not have been seen very often in past times. And you can basically look at any kind of behavior you want, as intensely as you want, as quickly as you want now, and that has never ever been possible. So I think we really need to acknowledge this is a new medium, and it may be creating new problems for some people, and clearly is creating new problems for some people. So now that brings us to the fear for porn side, and a lot of people, on that side of the fence have been people who've been oppressed in one way or another by sexual mores of our society, and essentially told what they should be turned on by, what they shouldn't be turned on by, that their turn-ons are not okay. And this goes for everybody from homosexual people, bisexual people, kinky people who have power and surrender as part of what they like to look at, all kinds of people who have basically been told that what they like is not okay, even if it's consensual, that there's something sick about it, even if it's just a fantasy, that there's something sick about it. And it has created a tremendous amount of trouble and conflict and shame in their lives in a lot of ways. And this is actually another very legitimate concern. The other fear for porn folks that I think is very important are folks who are worried about censorship. And not necessarily of porn, which is one, possibility, but also of any kind of sexual material. So one way to think about this, a lot of people have been watching the new series Masters of Sex. And if you know anything about the history of Masters and Johnson and Bill Masters, when he went to go research for the first time about human sexuality, he was already an OBGYN. And he was working in a teaching hospital at a university hospital. And he went to go look for the section that dealt with human sexuality, and he was told by the librarian he was not allowed to look in there because he hadn't been given special clearance. And when he finally did get into that section, he found that there was very little in there. Kinsey found the same thing. When Alfred Kinsey was told that he had to teach a biology class for a marriage class as a biologist, he knew what they were asking him. They were asking him to talk about sex. And so he went, like any good professor, like any good academic, to the material, and it wasn't there. There was very, very little material there, and that was all due to censorship. Now, you might say, well, that was the 50s, that was a long time ago, we don't have that problem now, but that's not the case. The fact is that the field of sexuality and sexology has not advanced very far in terms of research over the last, 50 or 60 or 70 years, because there's a lack of money for research. No one wants to pay for anything unless it has to do with fertility, and there is censorship. There are some government programs that will not pay for educational institutions and that will not supplement the financial aid for educational institutions if they use any kind of sexually explicit media. So, and that essentially it's saying, look, we're going to tell you how to teach because we think this is obscene. And so someone else is determining what's okay to watch, what's not okay to watch, and someone who is not necessarily an educator is determining what is educational. And that's very, very dangerous. That is a very, very dangerous thing to get into because we don't know what we don't know. And so both of these sides, both fear of porn and fear for porn, have very legitimate concerns. But I think that we really do need to begin to talk to each other on both sides of the issue without the hysteria that I sometimes see in the media, and for that matter, even in person in conversations about this. We really need to be able to say, what are you afraid of? Are you willing to hear what I'm afraid of? Can we talk about this? Because if we can't have the conversation, we're not really going to get anywhere, and we're not going to address the concerns on either side. So this is a brief part of my presentation on the pros and cons of pornography, which is available if you go to our website, www.instituteforsexuality.com. You can ask for information on how to have this presentation given for your school or for your group, whoever you'd like. And we really look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to comments about this and see what you have to say. See if we can start the conversation in a respectful way.